Welcome back to the Your Girl Yaz podcast, the podcast to listen to if you're a female entrepreneur who's ready to attract more fun, more money, success, friendships, and amazing clients into your business. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope I can add some more positivity into your day in this episode. Do you want to know what is robbing you of creating your dream life right now? It is the comparison trap that you keep falling into. The constant trap of comparing yourself to other people in the industry, comparing yourself to the people in your circle, comparing yourself to your friends, your family, strangers online. This comparison trap that we fall into is so detrimental for the success of our business and also for our mental health. When we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people online, all of these people, it is just constantly telling ourselves that we're not good enough, or constantly creating a lack mindset that we don't have enough, that we're not good enough. And it's just so hard as a business owner when you're constantly comparing yourself. And I wanted to share something as I was doing some research around comparison, which was this constant exposure to other people's best lives and best businesses online can leave us feeling unworthy, not good enough, and like something is missing within our own lives. It's like we're all starring in our own reality show, but we only get to see the behind the scenes struggles of our own lives, while everyone else's seems picture perfect. And I really wanted to share that when I started this episode around comparison, because I think it's so relatable. Like, this online world is a whole new world that we are diving into, and it's so easy for it to make you feel unworthy, not good enough, like something's missing in your life. And that's because you are going on Instagram, you're opening your phone, going on social media, and you're comparing yourself to someone's best self. You're comparing yourself to highlight reels, and I do think it's getting better. I think people are sharing more and being more raw and authentic, but still the majority is highlight reels, and it's like a reality show where the only behind the scenes you see is your life, and you're not seeing the behind the scenes for everyone else's lives. You're just seeing the best and the most glorified, and the highlight reels. And if you're running a business, of course people are going to be sharing their highlight reels. Of course people are going to be sharing the good parts to entice people to welcome them into business and to share what they're all about. Like, even for me, I want to show up as my best self and show what I have to offer, and in my most real and authentic way. I always feel like my podcast is a safe space to share the ups and downs. But that is why this episode is so important, because I wanted to teach you around comparison. I wanted to teach you around why we compare ourselves to other people. I want to teach you actually how detrimental it is. And if you feel like you compare yourself a lot, you might be doing it right now without even realizing. Like, I feel like it's very subconscious the way that we do it sometimes, where you might not even be realizing that you're doing it, and all of a sudden you're looking at someone walking down the street and making yourself feel rubbish because you think that she looks cooler than you, or she's wearing a nice outfit and you're sat in your hoodie with no makeup on and chilling. So it's so easy to do, and I do think it is a part of life. I do think as humans we do gravitate towards comparing ourselves to other people and situations, and in some ways it is beneficial it can motivate us when we see other people that have what we want. But I wanted to share a little bit around comparison and why we do it, the psychology behind it, and share like how you can stop comparing yourself as a business owner, build that tunnel vision, focus on your CEO energy, focus on yourself, and what's really important. So welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to get into today. I feel like I never sit on the podcast in a hoodie, and it's really cozy in Australia. It's like it's not cold, like not England cold, but it is getting cooler. And I went away with my friends at the weekend. We went to Byron Bay, where I used to live and work, and they all went surfing. I didn't quite go surfing this time because I was a bit scared of going out on my own, like without an instructor. So I went for a big lighthouse walk and had a lovely time. And then I also, we went shopping, and then I bought this jumper. It's literally an extra, extra large jumper, and it's so big and so comfy. And I love it. And I just feel so cozy doing this episode. And I love it. And you might also see my curly hair. I recently had a curly haircut, so I'm really trying to embrace the natural curls, and I'm learning how to look after it properly. I do need to get a diffuser, but I am pretty happy with it. I just need to learn to curl the front bits a little bit better, but I think that's what I need a diffuser for. But anyway, enough about me yapping. So let's go deeper into comparison and a little bit of the psychology behind it. So when we compare ourselves, it triggers our survival brain. It puts us into that fight or flight state. It makes us feel really dysregulated and really, really causes a lot of anxiety and stress. And this triggers our brain to think when, let's say, we are comparing ourselves to someone. Let's say, that example of walking down the street and you're comparing yourself to someone's got a lovely outfit on, and it makes you doubt yourself. When you compare yourself, it literally is causing your brain to think because that person has something, then you're less than them if you don't. So it's a real hard thing to deal with and cope with, and it can feel quite embarrassing sometimes when we're comparing ourselves. It can bring up lots of emotions like jealousy, envy, sadness. It makes us doubt ourselves for not having something that someone else has. And there's so much research into why we compare ourselves. So I want to take you back to 1950. And comparison has always been a thing, I feel like, from when I've done research around, like, as humans, we were always in tribes. So let's say that you were cast out of the tribe for whatever reason, then that would basically mean death. So I feel like we still have those instinct where if we do something that's going to make us feel like we're outcasted or outcasted from the pack or our friends or, online, the business world, it makes us feel, it triggers that flight or flight response. It triggers us to feel scared and brings up a lot of anxiety. But there was a psychologist called Leon Festinger in the 1950s that finally put a name on this human behavior. So he has a theory called the comparative psychology theory, which helps us understand why we're so obsessed with how we match up against others. And I think from learning all of this and having the tools and looking into why we compare ourselves, it really helps you as a business owner, as a CEO, take a step back from it, notice when you are comparing yourselves and reframe it, like change your perspective and help you shift in a very positive perspective for your business. That's going to help you grow, that's going to help you build a beautiful life and really motivate you to build the life that you want. So there are 3 types of comparison. We have upward comparison, we have downward comparison, and then we have lateral comparison. So upward comparison is when we are, for instance, comparing ourselves to someone that is very well established in something that they do. So let's say it was a famous tennis player and you've gone to the tennis, I was going to say tennis rink. Sure, I'll never be a professional tennis player. You've gone to the tennis court, let's say. Do you know what? I've been loving paddle. I've only played it a few times, so I love paddle. But let's say I was playing paddle and I was comparing myself to some professional paddle player, stalking them on Instagram and making myself feel so small. And it's that upward comparison of like comparing ourselves to someone who has, is very well established, very well skilled in something. And maybe that can make us doubt ourselves and make us feel like we want to have that or we wish we were that skilled and talented. Upward comparison can happen in so many ways. If you're a business owner, you could be comparing yourself to someone that's been in business a lot longer than you and you're doubting yourself and asking yourself why you don't have everything set up yet. And this happened to me recently of I'm currently putting everything together for my next retreat, and I'm doing a retreat course to learn how to be the best at doing retreats and be the best retreat facilitator I can be. And I'm doing that course with the people I went to. I went to one of their retreats in Bali when I was 22. It was so good, like honestly, such an amazing retreat and was so life changing for me. But I'm doing their retreat facilitator course at the moment, and I've just been changing around sort of a few things with the way I run retreats and getting really clear on my marketing and all of these things. And I noticed myself when I was like redoing my website, I was getting really frustrated because like it just wasn't looking like theirs. And I was like, oh my gosh, they've got all of this high tech and it looks so good. And there was just certain things that weren't working for mine. So I started comparing myself. And I had to really pull myself up on it because I was like, Yaz, they've hosted over 40 retreats. Like they have a team, there's two of them. He's a graphic designer, they have a virtual assistant, they have people that do their technology. And I was sat there still a one-man band comparing myself to these amazing people that have been in the industry a long time now. And they're so inspiring. And this is why it's so good to do this work, because when you catch yourself out, you can sort of bring a lightheartedness to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like, Yaz, stick with that tunnel vision, girl. You're doing amazing. It's inspiration. Like, that is going to be a point where I have an amazing website designer and mine is all bougie and beautiful, but I'm just enjoying the process. Like, the most important thing for me is the results and is the amazing experiences I get to build. And that's the priority over how things look and, things being all perfect. Like, imperfect action wins every time. Imagine if I let that stop me from hosting my second retreat in Spain. Or imagine if I actually designed the website last year before I went traveling. I was like, let's just do it. Let's get it out there. And, I sold 8 spaces within a month, and that was nothing to do with, the website. It was to do with the experience and chatting to people and getting excited about it. So upward comparison is good and bad. And I'm going to go into a little bit more around like the benefits, the negatives, and how you can reframe it. So that downward comparison there is comparing ourselves to someone much worse off than us, or comparing ourselves to someone that we view as in a lower level in something of ourselves. So just really comparing yourself there to someone that is worse off than you, like, telling yourself, well, at least I have one client, at least I'm not like that person, at least I, haven't got things that bad in my life. And then we have lateral comparison, which is comparing yourself to people in a similar place to you in life. And that comparison there of like being in similar positions and comparing yourself to them. So today I wanted to focus on the upward comparison. And this is where a lot of problems fall, because yes, it is amazing to be taking inspiration. Like, I am a sucker for Pinterest. I literally sit on Pinterest and I love it so much. Like, I literally sit and scroll and look at the type of life that I want and look at like the bodies. And I'm not very like, I need to have this body, but it's really good motivation for me to get out of bed, get going, go to my Pilates classes, like, living the healthy lifestyle and living the rich life of, and rich to me means something very different. Rich to me means like living such a fun, happy life. And like also like my CEO stuff, the retreat. I think Pinterest is amazing for, having that inspiration and not comparing yourself, not using it as a negative tool to be like, oh, I wish I had that. I wish I was in this position now. It's like, yeah, that's the type of life I want, and I'm going to keep building that, and I'm going to keep using it for inspiration. But it can also have a downfall, this upward comparison, when you are putting other people on a pedestal, when you're comparing yourself and, saying things like, oh my gosh, if only I had it that easy, if only I sort of putting people on a pedestal and like, oh, well, they've got it easy, they get their rent paid for, or they don't have as many money problems as me, or they've had things given to them. And just that sort of comparison of putting someone else's success on a pedestal and making yourself feel unworthy, making yourself feel like you don't deserve that success. And it can lead to you feeling really unhappy if you're constantly comparing yourself, constantly being in that lack mentality of like, well, I don't have that, so I can't be happy. when it's literally like you create your reality, my loves. Like I'm sat right now where I started my business, where I started my podcast, like as a 22-year-old backpacker with no money in the bank. Like I had no idea what I was going to do. I was working as a nanny, and then I found this amazing business coach, and it was going to cost me more than I was earning as a nanny. So then I went out and printed my CV, and I got another job working in a cafe as well to make my dreams come true, to have more income so I could afford this business coach. Like I really, really feel like I started with the okay, well, I'm going to make this happen mentality. Like, whatever happens, I'm going to go for it. And instead of looking at all of these people that already have businesses and comparing myself and feeling like, oh, I could never do that, it's like, well, how could I make it happen? For me, that step was investing in someone who had been in my shoes and been starting from scratch. Like I felt like I really had a privilege of finding an amazing coach who was going to be able to support me and, take me through the ups and downs and teach me what she'd learned. And for me, that investment was a small price to pay to build the life of my dreams. So I made it happen instead of sitting at home and thinking like, oh, I couldn't afford a business coach, or I couldn't afford to do that, or, investing in myself feels scary. I just made ways to make it happen. Like I remember when my business coach was like, right, we need to invest in Thrivecart so you can build a course. And that was £500. And I was in dollar mode at the time. So I was like, right, well, that's $1,000. So that is my whole monthly wage as a nanny. um, Actually, no, yeah, so that was my whole monthly wage as a nanny, and that was so scary. So it's like, right, let's get another job. And like I was just working a lot to make all of this happen. And sitting here again now with my dream business and with my clients, and with all of these things that I've been able to build in business, it's like that never would have happened if I stayed in that like stuck mentality of like, oh, well, she's got it, like I can't believe it, I'm never going to get that, like people like me don't get things like that. And of course I've had to work through so many limiting beliefs. Like there's so many times that I have had to check myself and be like, right, let's look at how we are running our business. Let's look at, how we're believing in ourselves. Let's look at the mindset side of things. Mindset should be your best friend in business. Like really, really nurturing your mindset is so important. And this comparison theory really comes into it. So how can we utilize this upward comparison? How can we use it to our benefit, and instead of viewing people's success as like a bad thing and constantly comparing ourselves to other people, it's like how can we use it to see that it's proof that this is also possible for us, that if someone else has got this, then actually that's proof that of course that I can too. So if only it was that easy to just shift. So it's so important to take these people in your life that you compare yourself to off that pedestal. Like from, looking online and thinking like, oh, I wish I had what they had, and, that sort of comparison loop to like, wow, what steps do you think they took to get there? Like, what do you feel like they had to get through to get to this place now? And I feel like from recording lots of guest episodes and really, really learning about guests and hearing their stories. And one I'll never forget was Miley Rose Harris, when she dived deep with me into like the journey of creating this $1 million business. And it didn't happen overnight. Like it's happened over years of showing up for herself and, putting in the work and really, really prioritizing herself along the way. Like I did a money mindset course with her, and her continuous advice was, you need to put yourself first. Like you need to be prioritizing your mindset and doing the internal work, and everything else in your business will follow. So this comparing yourself, this constantly putting other people on a pedestal is not doing you any favors in the business world, my love. So often people say like, oh, they're lucky, or, I think it's really important to look at your wording of how you are speaking about people that maybe have what you want, and instead of, making up this fake scenario in your head of like they've got it easy, or like things are just good for them because they're that sort of person and good things don't happen to people like me. Let's reframe it. Like, it does take hard work in business. Like, I have had people that have come to me and even friends and say, like, oh, I wish I had your life, or I wish I had your freedom. I wish I was doing what you were doing. And it's like, well, girl, I can help you get there. Like, it's going to take some hard work from both of us to really, really envision the type of life you want. But I promise you, it takes time. And even for me, I feel like I'm just getting started 2 years in. I see this as my life path. So I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush to have thousands of followers and, have a massive wait list of clients and sell everything out. And although you do have that ego, that financial side of things, and like, wanting to look after yourself, at the same time, it's like, I know that I'm in this for the long run. And I know that looking after my mental health is the most important thing. Looking after my mindset and making sure that I'm waking up and feeling like, yes, I'm embodying my best CEO self. Like, I'm showing up for myself every single day here. I'm doing the nervous system regulation. I am building that tunnel vision. I'm not focused on what other people are doing. I am, really focused on building my own beautiful life. And I always like have my own little bubble, and I'm like, come join the world of Yaz. Like, I'm here to honestly uplift people. And I really pride myself on the circle that I've built. Like, I've built a lovely, lovely circle of girls that are all running their businesses. And it's not a competitive, like, comparing industry. Like, there's not one competitive bone in any of the girls' bodies that I with and in my community, because everyone wants each other to win. Like, there's enough space for everyone in this world to create the life of their dreams. Like, there's enough space for everyone to have amazing businesses. Like, I don't want to have, hundreds of one-to-one clients. Like, I like working with up to between like 5 to 10 girls at one time and pouring all of my love into them, being there to support them as well as nurture myself. And, you don't need to be there for everyone. Like, the most important thing is you building a business and a life from a place of love. So, taking people off that pedestal and noticing as well, these people that you're comparing yourself to have probably been in your shoes right now too. Like, noticing that they have probably been in the place where there've been people they've been looking up to and thinking like, I wish I had their life. And, because they've stuck with it and kept going, they're now in that position where they are, successful and in a place where it looks really good on the outside and things like that. But you have to, take a step back and think like, no one's life is perfect. Everyone is going through their own struggles. I think a really good thing that I do is be really open and vulnerable with my friends. And, not, I used to think I had to be there for everyone and that my feelings weren't valid and that I had to put other people first. And that came from it's taken me a long time to break through that good girl box of constantly feeling like I have to like be the good one or be the little perfect box Yaz and do everything right and be the perfect mindset coach. That I've really taken a step back and I'm like, I am Yaz. Like, I I do silly things, I make mistakes, I'm not perfect. But I've really, in the last this chapter, I've started to get really accountable and like hold my hands up when things aren't perfect and be open with my friends when I'm going through hard times and be really honest. And I've just taken the pressure off myself from trying to be this perfect person. And I'm like, well, I'm Yaz. Like, here I am in all my glory, in all the ups and downs, in the chaos that is part of my life sometimes. And, having that acceptance, like, gosh, it's so freeing when you actually just start to accept yourself for who you are and stop trying to, compare yourself and reach these unrealistic expectations. And from spending lots of time, um, so where I'm living in Australia, right, and I've been spending time on the Gold Coast, in Noosa, these very abundant, rich areas, right? There's lots of flashy things. There's lots of nice cars, perfect gym outfits, perfect this, and people just wanting to look like the best version of themselves. But as I have been spending more time and learning more about it, like, Australia has one of the biggest like debt problems. Like, there's so many people in so much debt, and I feel like it's so easy to try build this like fake perception of, this perfect life. But look at what cost it has. Like, I've really looked at what cost, trying to meet up to this perfect rich expectation does for you. Like, you know do you really want, what is the cost of you trying to reach these unrealistic expectations? Like, do you want to put yourself in loads of debt from trying to look the perfect part and try live up to these, false expectations? And it's like, it comes at a cost. It really does come at a cost when you are constantly comparing yourself and feeling like you need to constantly change parts of yourself in order to be liked. And it goes a lot deeper. It goes a lot deeper than this wanting to be liked. It goes a lot deeper than wanting to have nice things, or, have this picture perfect life, or have all of your perfect clients and all this money in the bank. Like, we want safety. We want love at the end of it. Like, we want to be loved at our core. And, it's really important to come back to the internal, like, okay, like, what is causing me to compare myself to these people right now? Like, think of someone that you're currently comparing yourself to and asking yourself, like, well, what is it that they have that I want? Because, you know, is it the fancy car? Is it the dream clients? Like, what is it that I actually want? And getting clear on why you want these things as well, because the ego is not messing about. The ego mindset is constantly causing us to feel like we need things in order to be happy. Like, we need that new outfit, or we need these things. And, I've really come back to a place of like, as long as I'm internally happy, the external will work out. Like, the priority for me has shifted from like building the business, building to like, whoa, let's slow down and let's really prioritize myself and trust that everything's falling into place. And my life feels like a little bit of a game right now, because I felt like everything that I was building just started to fall apart a little bit. I started to feel like I wasn't good at what I was doing. I started to feel like, because I was on the move so much, I couldn't give all of my time and love to everything that I wanted to, because I was just doing so much. So when I started to slow down, I just noticed that I'd been like really being so hard on myself, making myself feel like I wasn't a good coach. I've had like different client contracts come to end, and just things that I've felt like I really attached my identity to my business a lot, and I've had to come back from that and be like, well, what is really important? Like, at the end of the day, like, if everything, fell apart right now, what would I have? And I've really, really done the deeper work around building my happiness up again, and like really disattaching myself to um the success of my business and coming back to what makes me truly happy. And being in Australia has been a godsend for me, because all of my friends here, like, no one cares what I do. Like, no one cares. They are so happy for me that I have a business. They're so happy that, I'm doing all of these amazing things. But they love me for me, and they love me for my personality and like just me as a person, and not this mindset coach Yaz. And I felt like it's a bit like the Hannah Montana movie, where she has like she has, Hannah Montana, and then she has Miley Cyrus. And it's good to use these examples of like, okay, are you just fully in your Hannah Montana mode of like show mode, or are you being genuine? Like, have you lost a bit of your authenticity along the way? And I've really had some hard truths with myself, and got really honest and vulnerable around, okay, well, what parts of myself do I feel like I was performing, and um feeling like I had to like be this perfect mindset coach, and who really am I at my core? So I've really done that like deeper inner work and come back to like, okay, this is who I am. This is who Yaz is. She is a very fun, loving, happy person in general. I bounce about through life and I enjoy being around people. I enjoy making people happy. I love eating. I love food. I love my long walks. There's so much that I love outside of business. And I think it's so important to come back to building a life that you love, and, coming away from the comparison and asking yourself, okay, why do I want these things? Like, why am I comparing myself to this person, and how can I reframe it? Like, how can I take them off the pedestal and bring the humanness back and realize that they're just a human as well. Like, I guarantee every time someone posts something something vulnerable online, or let's say I say something normal, or like, that makes me vulnerable, or just honest and raw, it helps you connect with people. Like, all we want at the end of the day is connection. And from traveling on my own, from meeting people, from just having all of these experiences over the last 5-6 months, I've just really, really come back to what's important, which is connection. Like, I've had some of the best weekends in Australia just being with my friends, where it feels like 20 years ago. Like, no one's on their phones. Everyone is so happy. Like, I've had sleepovers with my friends every single weekend, and slept on the sofas, and we've all had the best times and gone out and been in nature. And I'm like, that's what's important. Like, it's not, you don't remember the times where you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours working on your laptop, glued to your social media. You remember the times when you're making memories and doing intentional work. Like, I'm really enjoying recording this podcast episode because it's from a place of alignment, and instead of being from a place of like, right, I need to get this podcast episode out, I now have a whole podcast day where I get really excited to create, and it's exciting. And I've like poured so much love into like setting myself up for today and being intentional with this episode, and like really coming from a place of love. And that's the energy you want to be in, rather than like, oh my gosh, I need to have this, I need that because that person has that. And just taking the pressure off yourself. Like, for me, I'm like, I'm in this for the long run. So as long as we're just keeping going, it's going to keep picking up. There's going to be like different things and challenges. And I'm so grateful that, things have come to a bit of a slower period for me, in order for me to prioritize like the retreat, the business, and like, grow in a really loving way, and not a way of like, okay, I constantly need more clients, because that can be a really unhealthy and, toxic cycle to be in, always wanting more, always needing more. And that's why I came out of sales. That's why when I moved to Australia the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, the thought of going back into my sales career gives me the shivers. It gives me the fear. Like, I don't want to be glued to my like computer every day on the phone talking about bloody life insurance and talking about them jobs that just weren't making me happy and weren't fulfilling me, because that was a constant cycle. Like, you're only as good as your last month or your last week in sales. And I think that was really hard for me, because I went into sales at 16. So it was constantly like my self-worth was attached to how good of a month I was going to have. And some months I would really struggle and I wouldn't hit my targets. And that would make me feel like I wasn't a good person in sales, or just, it really, I attached my self-worth to it. And then when I had good months, it makes you feel like you're like the best person in the world, and they like pride you, and they're like, well done, like you're the best person, and like make you feel like a celebrity. But that's just not how, I just don't think that's healthy, because we are going to have slower months. Like, if every single month of your life was exactly the same and amazing, like, it wouldn't be so amazing. It would sort of become mediocre. So that's why I believe the ups and downs is like such important parts of your life, because every time I'm going through a hard stage, I know that the glow up is going to feel so good. I know that afterwards, like sort of what I'm going through now, I'm coming back up. I'm like, woo! I feel amazing. So, going back into that social comparison, when we are constantly measuring ourselves against others, our self-esteem is going to become like a yo-yo. It is bouncing up and down on how we think we measure, like similarly to what I just said about sales. One month we're flying, we're having all of these client inquiries, all of our social media posts are doing really well, like everything's flying. And then you might have a month or a period where it's a bit slower and it feels like your world's ending. You've had, maybe clients cancel, or your income's dropped, or something's happened, and that's making you feel like you are rubbish at what you do. It can really, really shatter your self-worth. It can make you feel very fragile. It can really, really mess up your self-worth and your self-belief. And that's because you're becoming dependent on that external validation and comparison. You're becoming dependent on, this yo-yo of when you have a good month, that means that you're a good person and you're amazing. And when you have a slower month, you're making yourself feel like the worst person in the world and comparing yourself. So, it's really, really important to look at this, because I honestly laugh, because I've just gone through all this of like, doubting myself and feeling like I was not a good coach, when realistically I just needed to come back to prioritizing myself and like really, really nurturing myself. So when you become dependent on external validation, so it's literally, when you're doing this, it's like building a house on quicksand instead of a solid foundation. Like, that is why it's so important to build yourself the solid foundations, which is doing the internal mindset work. So, how can we break free from comparing ourselves? Let's start with the self awareness, my loves. It's so important to catch yourself out when you're comparing yourself. Like I did when I was, redoing my retreat website. And it was like, oh, it's just like feeling like I needed to have it as good as theirs and like it be all perfect. And I'm like, Yaz, come on, girl. Like, I caught myself out. I, brought myself back to reality. I like rationalized as well. I was like, yes, they've got a whole team. Like, babes, we're going to get to that point where you have support. But right now, you are doing your absolute best. And it looks amazing. And, coming back to what's important, which is the quality I provide. So, are there certain people right now or certain situations that trigger you? Like, as well, looking at the positive comparison, looking at, are there certain things that motivate you? Like, a positive comparison for me is Pinterest, because it makes me feel really good. And I have certain role models in my life that make me feel motivated to show up for myself. And I'm like, yes, if they've got that, then I can do that too. Like, all I have to do is keep going and be in it for the long run. And of course, I can have that too. Like, how exciting. Also, things like nurturing yourself. Like, I'm going to keep banging on about this, but having that self compassion, being kind to yourself, and knowing that you are the most important person in all of this. Like, you are your business. Like, you are the brand. The person behind the brand is the most important thing. And I know, in order to show up as my best CEO self and my best self in my business, then I need to be prioritizing myself. And that's how I get to show up my best for all of my clients. Like, this is stuff that I love working through, because when you're stuck in this comparison loop, then you're not going to be producing your best work. You're not going to be building from a place of love and building what you want to build, because you're building based on what you think you should be doing and what other people are doing. And one thing I've done from the start is say, like, I went on quite a big self-love journey before I started my business. I went traveling, I went to a self-love retreat, I threw myself into all of these different like ways to heal myself before I started the business. So by the time that came around that I was doing the mindset coaching course and like building a vision of the type of business I want, I knew that I tested it out in life. When I moved to Australia, I had no friends. And I was like, well, this is the period where I'm really going to be myself. And whoever loves me for me is going to love me for the real me, and not like the party Yaz or the version of me that I used to put on as a bit of an act, which wasn't really in alignment with the real me. So it's really, and I've gone on a massive journey of this. I used to never ever take a photo without having a filter on it. Like, I come now with my curly hair and, being a bit more natural and being happy internally. And I've come from the girl that literally would not take a photo without a filter on it. Like, constantly obsessed with the way I looked, constantly having to be in a gym and like constantly like tearing myself apart and not feeling good in my body. And from such a young age, I remember in school, I put myself on a juice diet where I would literally like just bring horrible green juices to school and not eat because I wasn't as skinny as other girls. And like, this has gone on for so long. Like, as humans, we do compare ourselves. But this is why I want you to be able to take control of it. And especially if you're running an online business, you're going to be comparing yourself to other girls on social media. Like, and that's why it's so important to have circles like the CEO Club. Like, the CEO Club for me is so important because it's come away from the whole like seeing the highlight reels, and you're seeing the backstories to people. You're seeing the behind the scenes of all of the girls' lives, and that's what I love about it, is because I've built a space where you are seeing the behind the scenes. So you're not putting people on a pedestal, you're around real people creating real businesses, sharing their real struggles. And that's why on the podcast I like to be real with Charles, real with you, because like I'm a girl on this journey with you all, and I'm not perfect. Like I literally started with no money in the bank and did my mindset coaching course on a payment plan whilst I was working in a bar in Byron Bay. And I remember one time, and because I went back to Byron Bay, when all my friends were surfing, I was just walking around town, and I walked up to the lighthouse there, and I remember living there as a 22-year-old backpacker. This is where I was studying, right? And I was so happy in that moment because, yes, I didn't have any money in the bank. I had no money to my name. And, you know, coming from a career in sales, when I was 16 to 22, I had my life together more. I had, like, on paper, I had a car, I had a steady income. I worked in sales. I had the same amount coming into my bank every month. I had a flat. Like, you know, I had one collection of clothes. I had just these stable things. And then when I left home, I haven't had a car. I haven't owned a car since I was 22. I haven't been in one place for more than 9 months. I've been traveling. I've been starting over so many times. And going back to Byron, it made me realize, like, I was so happy when I had $2 in the bank and I was doing my mindset coaching course and I was learning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I found something that I love. Imagine if I could create my dream business from this. Like, imagine if I could help one person who has gone through who's going through a hard time. Like, I went through such a hard time with my mindset. I went through such a hard time, such a long journey falling in love with myself, and I'm still on a big journey of it. And it's so sometimes nice to go back to places where you were a different version of yourself, and that's where I am now as well. I'm living in the place that I set up my business, and I spent hours building my first self-love course that, you know, I had these big expectations and it didn't go as planned. But you look back and laugh, and you know, you realize you need to go through these things in order to blossom and to become the version of you and to learn the lessons that help you in each stage of your life. And some, like, one quote that stuck with me, well, it's not a quote, but it's like, you know, when do you think a butterfly ever worries about going back to being a caterpillar? In order for a caterpillar, right, to turn into this beautiful butterfly, they have to have periods where they cocoon, where they go inwards, where they, you know, have that time to grow before they blossom into this beautiful butterfly. And we need that too. We need time to, like, look at the type of person that we want to be and build that tunnel vision, go inwards. And that's what I love doing as well in my coaching and my retreats, is giving you that space to go inwards, to, like, recreate your environment, to just really have that time to switch things up in your life. And I love it so much. Like, I love what I do, and it's part of me. It's going to come on lots of different adventures with me through life as I grow and I change. But I know that I'm the most important thing, and if I am constantly comparing myself to other people, then I'm no good. Like, I'm no good for my clients. I'm no good for, you know, the people around me if I'm constantly putting other people on a pedestal. So that's why it's so important, my loves, to really, really prioritize yourself. Like, really look at, okay, how can you stop comparing yourself, take the pressure off, and, you know, start looking at how I can build that tunnel vision again. Like, honestly, what we see of other people's lives is literally the tip of the iceberg. Like, you're not going to see everyone's struggles and the hard times that they're going through. Even it might be hard for some of your friends to open up. So, you know, go easy. Like, when you notice yourself comparing yourself, just flip it. How can we reframe that? How can you start using it as inspiration and come back to, okay, like, what's that highlighting for me that I want? So I love you all. I loved recording this episode. I've got a bit of a sore throat now because I've been going on, but I feel like I just have so much that I want to support everyone with. And I love the podcast. You know, it's the first thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to have a podcast before I wanted to start a business. So that was when I was in Thailand in my party days, and I was working in a party hostel, and I did some psychedelics. And then I woke up the next day and was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And I wrote out a note of what each episode was going to be about. And then I had a bit of a reflection. I was like, did that really happen, or was that a dream? And then I looked at the notes on my phone and I was like, oh. And then, the doors open. I went to that self-love retreat and I met a girl on it that did a podcast creation course, and who I did my podcast creation course with ended up being my business coach because we got on so well, and she also did business coaching, and that's what started my business. So it's like this invisible string of what's leading you to your dream life. You might not even see it right now, but there's lots of things that are happening for a reason for you. And it might always not look fan and dandy. It might feel hard, but there's a reason that you're going through what you're going through. And there's a reason maybe that you're comparing yourself. And I want this to be the sign that actually you can build your dream life. And if you need any extra support, that is what I'm here for. Like, you can reach out to me in the show notes. That is, the different options that you have. I've worked really hard over the last 2 years to build something for everyone. Like, you have the CEO club where, for £8 a week, you're getting that mindset support. You have the community calls with me. You have the monthly mindset trainings I do, as well as a beautiful community for £33 a month. You can book an Empower Hour with me, which is a real in-depth hour where if you're stuck right now, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you're just not making the moves that you want to make. And like, I know that I'm always a big investor. Like, I know that I will benefit the most from like personal like support as well. I'm like, I need someone that's going to get in there with my blind spots and help me. So that is what the Empower Hours are there for, is to help you have that personalized support and a personalized hour to really leave you feeling empowered and get you out that rut and give you actionable steps to take that next move towards the life or business that you want. And then we have the one-to-one coaching, which is my 6-month signature one-to-one mentorship. And that is purely focused around building the life of your dreams. So we're going to dive deep into everything. This is for my girlies that want a full life reset. It's my most transformative offering, and the work that we do is very deep. It is literally turning your life around. Like, if you really, really want to attract your dream clients, you want to completely fall in love with yourself, you want to step into the most empowered CEO possible, then this is for you. This is for my girls that really, really want that transformation. And I have 2 offerings of this. I have my bi-weekly option where you get calls twice a month, and then I also have my like upgrade version where you get 3 calls a month, 3 weeks of Slack support, and then you have an integration week. And because you also get the CEO club, so you can join in with the community as well, and you also get discounts on my retreats. So they're the amazing online offerings I have. And then finally, I have my retreats. If you're ready for that in-person connection, you want a like really life-changing experience in person, my retreats are for you. They're for the girls that really, really want to build these deep friendships in person. They want to connect, they want to transform, they want to transform into this luxury, abundant energy. Like, I go to town with my retreats, and I'm going to be really growing the retreat side of my business because I love the in-person connection. I'm a people's person. Like, I love being around people. I love bringing people together, and I love helping people realize what's possible for them. Like, taking the limitations you put off yourself, because I feel like I just believe deeply in people's visions. Like, I really, really connect with what people like want in their lives, and nothing makes me happier than bringing people's visions alive, like in my business life. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's change your life. And the retreats are so perfect for that. So, and all of these things, the best thing is it comes against your business. Like, it's a tax write-off. Every time you invest in yourself, it is a tax write-off. So that's why I am such a big investor in my business. Like, I'm constantly investing in things that are going to grow me. And even when it feels scary, it feels risky, it feels like, can I really afford that? It's like, well, what is the cost if I don't? Like, if I want to learn from the best, you've got to invest. Like, that's the simplicity of it. If you want to be the best, I invest in the best. And that is what I have to bring to you guys as well. Like, there's a reason that I'm a mindset coach on programs. There's a reason that I, have done 75 episodes on the podcast now. I can't believe that. There's just a reason that I'm doing all of these things. And I'm so excited to bring you guys. Well, I constantly bring you all along. I'm so excited that you're here, and just know that I I'm here to support you if you want to invest and you're ready. And there's never a right time. There's never a right time to invest in your business. There's never a right time to do anything in life. Like, we have to just go for it sometimes and take that risk. And I'm a big risk taker. I'm like, right, I'm going to do it. So yes, I love you all. I'll leave that episode there. And if you need anything, in the show notes, you have got all of my details, all of the lovely offerings that I have put together now. And you can always message me on Instagram at Yasmin Lily Hilsden. If you've loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you can leave a review. Like, you literally just on Spotify, you just have to press that 5-star. That would mean a lot to me. So love you all. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have learnt and, you're going to take this on board and stop comparing yourself and start really prioritizing yourself. So love you all. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode on the Your Girl Yaz podcast. We'll be back next Wednesday at 7 a.m. UK time, so I look forward to seeing you back here. I also have a free higher self meditation course for you to learn to meditate, to relax, to switch off, that's available for you to access now in the show notes. And also, don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening, rate, leave us a review. I appreciate it way more than you could ever know. Thank you so much again for listening. If you've got any feedback of the podcast, my Instagram at Yasmin Lily Hilsden is also linked in the show notes, and I really appreciate it.